This is episode number 528 of the Health Fitness Podcast, brought to you by InnerFight in association with Smith Street Paleo. Please hop over to smithstreetpaleo.com. Check out all of the yummy Smith Street Paleo food over there, delivered directly to your home, recipes online, all those sweet treats to satisfy your sweet cravings. smithstreetpaleo.com is exactly where you need to go. Welcome back to another edition of the show, folks. And today I'm actually super excited, as I pretty much always am, about our guest, Mr. Dia Hassan. Dia is the man behind Create Production. They create all sorts of different things. They've had some massive wins recently. You might have seen they actually did a whole campaign. They've been doing campaigns for Emirates for the last year. They did a whole campaign about Mother's Day, which was absolutely incredible. This guy knows so many things. And in the era that we're living in, with so much influence in the fitness industry coming through social media, all those big social media influencers out there, so much knowledge that you guys are getting by going to social platforms. It's super interesting to chat to Dia about the way things are going, how people create content, what's good content, what's bad content. And if you are in the fitness industry or trying to make a break as a personal trainer, this is super interesting as well, because Dia's going to share with us all the different ways, tips, tricks, techniques that you could use to make good content, to engage your audience, and to give them some true value. This is a super interesting chat. Dia's an awesome guy. I hope you guys enjoy it. Welcome back to another edition of the show. And as I was just saying there, folks, yes, social media, creating content has become something huge in the fitness industry. So who better to get with me than the man behind Create Content, Create Production. Yeah. You guys started as Create Content, or Create Content was another.
So that's another side of the business. It was more. Totally. Yeah, there's quite a few sides, right?
There's quite a few, but yeah, Dia Hassan, mate, thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks
mate,
for having me.
We know each other through Tom, who's a partner with you, Create Media Group. But tell us a little bit about how you got into Create and actually what you guys do. I think that's the best place to kick this off.
Sure. To be honest, I mean, my background was definitely not into media. I was in risk management for about 11 years. Wow. So I was in insurance for a very long time. And then it was just one of these routine moments where I knew every single morning that I was waking up to a job that I didn't really want to, I wasn't really interested in it.
Right.
And I guess one morning I kind of just wanted to change. I really badly wanted something different. I went to India for a few weeks and then came back and decided that insurance is not going to be for me, and then basically literally just quit. I had no plan.
Really?
Basically I think the first campaign that I worked on was with Audi, and the only reason why Audi came into the picture was because we were, as a band, as a musician, we were the ambassadors for Audi.
Right.
So they were sponsoring our music. They were kind of like helping us, our journey as musicians. And then they saw the content that I was creating on my personal page, and they said, hey, we have a new car called the Q2. Would you want to try to like create a campaign for it?
No way.
And I think that was my first campaign that I ever did super on my own, like solo.
Wow.
And so off the back of that, we created Create Production.
So just a little bit of background on Create. Obviously, it's owned by my friend, your business partner now, Tom Otten.
Yeah.
Mate, this is a crazy story in itself. We had Tom on the show talking about how he started Create, or little bits of it, like 5 years ago. But it's a company that's kind of just grown and grown and grown into now. There's all these different branches. So for you coming into that environment must have been like, this is something awesome. It's a huge opportunity.
For sure. And I think, you know, the thing that Tom created, which was amazing, was literally getting the right people in the room and creating, you know, the talent that sits in one table is pretty impressive. And I think being able to have, you know, potential leaders across the table, somebody who's an expert in their field and that definitely adds a lot of value to the culture, is something that grew the business in a very rapid way, I would say.
So when you guys hooked up, you'd come back from this trip from India, you sort of got into this thing with Audi, which I want to break into that because I want to understand how you get into sort of creating content as well in a second. How did it come around that you would set up Create Production?
So, to be honest, at the very beginning, I just wanted to set up my own sort of freelance company, and I had no sort of understanding of how far I wanted to take the production business. I was kind of just wanting to build my own personal brand in the process, and I had a catch up with Tom, and basically we discussed about the potential opportunities of working together. And I remember at the end of that coffee, like an hour and a half, into the coffee. He's like, hey, let's, instead of us just having an agreement where you're servicing our clients, why don't we just create a company together? And that's how it started.
Mate, because that's what, to give it a little bit of context, that's what Create Media has been doing, servicing clients, digital platforms, websites, social media. So there was a massive gap in the market to actually create the content that they were going to then put onto these social channels.
For sure. And I mean, the difference, again, I'm a newbie to the industry, especially with the media industry, but I've noticed very quickly that there's the big branding agencies, and they used to do things the old-fashioned way.
Right.
And everybody's spending so much time on social media platforms. That is the new television. That is the new, you know, that's the new sort of platforms that everyone's consuming the content. So that's when we saw the rise of the influencers. That's when we saw the rise of vloggers.
Can't wait to talk about this. This is
so like,
such a great show.
So like, you know, when that started happening, of course, all the brands started paying attention to that, and that is the new medium of media. So the old companies that are big branding agencies, they still wanted to create the $1 million campaign.
You're right.
But then the clients were like, well, instead of paying $1 million for one campaign, we can actually cover 6 campaigns for $1 million over, let's say, or X amount of campaigns over these social media platforms. So understanding the value of money that they get from the social media platforms, plus trackability. The fact that if you pay, you know, 500,000 dirhams or 100,000 dirhams for a billboard on Shazad Road, you don't even know how many people are actually taking action.
No.
So,
which, mate, what is it? I've just got millions.
There's so much. I can see the ideas.
There's
like,
so much, isn't there? But what is your thoughts, mate, on that sort of traditional form of media, the stuff that you see up and down Sheikh Zayed Road? I know you guys are on the other side of the fence, but people are still doing it. People are still spending millions. Should brands be doing that?
Sure. But there is a time and place for it. And I'm just going to give you a small sample. I've noticed a lot of brands that I know personally, let's say they're marketing directors and marketing managers, they are placing ads on big billboards for a certain period of time.
Right.
And when that time expires, that billboard doesn't change.
Right.
So that gives you not like an understanding of the fact that actually there isn't really much going on in that space. But if you're trying to be disruptive, and let's be honest, I mean, how many people are driving their cars and looking at their phones? They're not even looking outside, you know what I mean? Like, you're driving your car, you're looking at your phone, and you expect people to look at like a billboard? So it's a bit,
it's not going to happen. I mean, mate, obviously too many people are looking at their phones, and I think that's what's changing as well, is that form of media. Like, but I'm just surprised that, and I know, guys, you're thinking we're 5 minutes into the show, we haven't spoken anything about health and fitness, we're not talking at all about nutrition, and why are you listening to the Health Fitness Podcast? But we are going somewhere very... Whoa, my microphone is chipping. Anyway, we are going somewhere very interesting with this. This is disaster. We are going somewhere and this is why we don't edit the show, so that you guys can enjoy all the technical problems that I have. When Dia speaks in a minute, I'm going to get a new mic out. Mate, this is disaster, real disaster. We might edit this one.
Is it the batteries maybe, or do we change?
That one doesn't.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's better.
Back online.
We're back. We're back. We could actually just keep that bit in and just show how authentic it is. Let's see how good our editing team is. But, mate, where we're really going, and where I think this is an interesting conversation, is this whole impact in health and fitness.
Sure.
But before we do get there, mate, I love stories about how people got to where they got to. And I love what you said in those opening bits. You went to India, you came back, you started working on this project for Audi. Talk us through
the process.
Yeah, because I think this will be awesome.
So, I mean, my journey in insurance was pretty long. And I started off being, you know, just a regular junior salesperson, ended up in a senior vice president position. And even getting high up the chain, I still wasn't really feeling satisfied personally. I wasn't feeling like I was doing something that I enjoyed doing every single day.
Right.
So when I left to India, became a hippie for a while, and then
Did you?
Yeah. So
like properly?
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
Like 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks.
That's not long enough.
Yeah. I mean, I was back. I mean, yeah. So I've been to go India a few times, but basically the thinking process, and I just wanted to like spend time with myself. And I think a lot of us go through life too busy to really ask ourselves 3 questions, which are super important.
Yeah.
One of them was, for me, was what is the one thing I would do 12 hours a day if money wasn't an option? Like, money wasn't a problem.
This is awesome.
So like, and I had to answer that question first. And that answer for me, the first answer was I wanted to be in the creative field. I wanted to do something creative. I still didn't know what that, like I still didn't really understand what can I contribute.
Yeah.
And then the second question was, well, what can I add value to somebody else? Like how much value I can add in what space?
Right.
So creating ideas, and then to be honest with you, I didn't really believe in my content creation skill set.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I could do a bunch of videos. I don't know.
I've got a smartphone.
Yeah, like we'll see. I don't know. But then like I was just publishing, personal content, and then when Audi approached and they kind of said, hey, we kind of like that specific style and it matches this specific product.
Right.
And then I was like, wait, this could be a potential business here.
Right.
So, but the first question that got me onto this path was, what is the one thing that I would do for 12 hours a day for free?
It's so funny, mate. When I did one challenge with Rob Jones and Sean Hurley, we actually played around with a hypothetical situation like that. We're in Corsica and we're running up these mountains, and it'd been super long, and we're like, just to entertain ourselves because we're smoked, and we're like, okay, this is the story. You get to get your salary for the next year or for the next 5 years. I can't remember what it was. I think we started at 1 year and then we went to 5 years. But you're not allowed to work. What would you do with your time?
100%.
And
what did you come up with?
Mate, I actually, one of the things that I would continue, I said I would continue. They said, you're not allowed to coach InnerFight for any money and stuff like that. I said, I would have to, one of the things I would continue is the podcast, which we're on right now. Another thing that I would do is I'd just do more challenges and fill my time with that. But it's quite an interesting, like you said, like what would you do for 12 hours a day if money was no object?
And to be honest, I meet a lot of people who struggle with that question.
Yeah.
And maybe for me, it's a bit sort of a challenging thing to understand. But a lot of the people kind of go, I really don't know. I really don't know what's the one thing that I would do. And I think that's the passion part. Where like, have you figured out what's your passion? Have you figured out what's your true calling in life?
Yeah.
We get one life, and we have to live it. So you choose whether you want to live this day by day, compromising on every single thing that you wanted to do, or do you actually really just want to take the risk? And to be honest, and here's maybe one thing for everybody that has a day job and is kind of like taking the the idea of security, an idea of career as a safety net, and the thing is, being in a leadership position before, we know that we used to daggle the carrot just to kind of say, oh, you're going to get a promotion or you're going to get something else. But in reality, it's if the industry fluctuates and then something happens in the industry in general, you're losing your job. You know what I mean? So there is no safety net. The only safety net you can create for yourself is your skill set that you can add value to somebody else. Not through a company, not through you as an individual. If you're removed from an organization, what value can you add to the community?
What was your answer to that?
For myself.
Yeah. I mean,
it was a tough one. It was a tough one. I mean, again, I knew myself, and a lot of people that knew me knew that I didn't belong in the corporate world.
Right.
And they were like, what do you do? I mean, my background is music.
You're speaking to a lot of people now, mate. We got people listening that are in the corporate world, have loads of people that sit and listen to this at their desk as well.
Sure.
So
look, there is a specific approach when it comes to like growing yourself in a corporate organization, and of course there's a lot of success that comes with that.
Yeah.
But it's also important to understand who you are and understand if you belong to that formula or not.
Right.
For myself, I knew that my background is in music.
Yeah.
I started playing music when I was in high school. I'm in a band called Jelena Down. We've performed all across. So that coming from that background.
Yeah.
And I've been through quite a few difficult situations in my upbringing that forced me into getting a secure job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Both my parents passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
I had to pay rent when I was 16, 17.
Wow.
So I had no option.
Yeah.
So it was like, and back then, you had to do something. My first job was a real job when I was 19 or 20.
Right.
So being in that kind of difficult situation, I kind of just found myself in a position where I had to make ends meet.
Yeah.
But when I had the option of kind of like being aware and making choices for myself, I was like, actually, no, I'm going to take myself somewhere else.
Right.
The biggest challenge there was redefining myself.
Wow.
A lot of people get too consumed and too used to who they are, especially if you're in a managerial position. They're like, no, but what other people going to think about me? Like, how am I going to get perceived from my family? Like, imagine my salary is going to get cut. That means I can't, do dinners with this guy and whatever with that guy.
Yeah.
But in reality, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? It's your life.
What does it matter?
Yeah. What does it matter? And I see a lot of people struggling with redefining themselves.
Yeah.
While they're like, yeah, but I've invested like 10 or 11 years in this career. And I'm like, so what?
But I think you've come across or come to a really good point there, mate, is that people, they struggle to define themselves because we sit and we make lists about the things that we don't like but we find it difficult to figure out what we actually do like. So it's that question that we come back to is, what would you do 12 hours a day if money wasn't an
100%.
object?
And that could be running a business. You know, that could be that being in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Or that could be you're an artist, or that could be you're in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's bring it back to fitness, I think.
Mate, let's continue with Audi. So you've got this gig for Audi, creating something for them.
Yeah.
Talk us through it. What did you create? You spoke a bit about like, we like your style. What's your style?
Yeah.
Give us a bit of a taste for things.
Coming from a sort of a solo content creator, my style was more on the documentary side. You know, more sort of realistic approach. I would say the kind of stuff that you would see, you know, the current content creators are creating. So they had a product called the Q2, and the Q2 was a car supposedly focused on the new generation.
For the people that couldn't afford the Q5.
Exactly.
Or is it the Q7? I know Q8. I don't
exactly. Yeah. So like it was, you know, it was for the new graduates, people who just finished university and they wanted to get into the Audi family. So the whole vibe for the Q2 was young generation, you know, artists, or, you know, just the, sort of the hip, cool generation. So they, and this is the surprising part, they were like, cool, like, you know, you're connected to the local artist scene or music scene. We want you to choose the people, put them forward, and basically, create the content for us. So, because that was my literally first project, and it was intended for social media platforms. And I'm sure the guys from Audi are going to be watching this, I guess. But basically, like, if I told you what camera I shot this on, it's almost like a point and shoot camera.
Really?
So, but the stuff is already online, and you see the quality, and it's, you know, I would say it's decent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's decent. And that was my first experience. So, again, it's just understanding, like, it took somebody else to see the value in what you create.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, I think you can add value to us in this space, and, you know, hiring you for that job. And then I had that revelation with myself that actually I could probably roll this out into a business in a way.
Wow.
And then Tom's addition to the equation was, he's like, cool, but if you want to do it on your own, you're not going to go far. So how about we make a company around it, and actually that's how you grow, you know, the business. And with his experience in running Create Media for a long time, he kind of nurtured the idea of Create Production. And then with, you know, between adding the value of creating content and his management skills and background in business, we both
starts to come together. So you create this thing on a point and shoot camera for Audi, mate. Where does it sit? So you create what was it, a short film, or what's the story?
So these were 5 episodes, basically movies or 1-minute videos. Each one was targeted to a different demographic in the market.
Right.
So I had a Emirates Airlines pilot that she's a fashionista as well.
Right.
So shot with her in like a space that she was kind of made her look at it like a badass at the beginning, and then like went into some fashion scenes. It was cool. Shot with a friend of mine called Hamdan Abri, who's a singer, a local musician here, a singer as well.
Right.
And he took us through old Dubai and old souks, and then kind of like showed Dubai from his eyes in a way. Right. So we had, you know, 5 different samples of how people living the urban life, but then through their eyes, through their experiences of Dubai, and how the car then facilitates that experience.
Mate, that is something. I mean, it's quite. What was that? That was like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah, 4, I'd say.
Yeah. So at that time, that was probably quite. We were talking about the show before, and how actually we were doing live shows like 4 years ago, and before there was Facebook Live and stuff. But that was really
early days.
You were early days. You were OG.
Yeah.
How was it received? I mean, because the marketing managers from Audi, they're probably, you know, they're sat in boardrooms, and they're like, yeah, this guy Dia, he's going to create this content for us, and people are just probably going, what do you mean that he's going to create content?
Exactly.
How was it? How was what you were doing received?
To be honest, with Audi, it's one of the very let's say few brands that are super flexible and super understanding, and also willing to take the risk when it comes to like new initiatives. I think, you know, they understood. Of course, they understood that, you know, could go both ways, could go horribly wrong, or it could actually turn out into something good. But they took the risk into going for it, and they understood that there was a shift between the old way of creating content, which is the big advertising budgets, and that shift is happening. And I mean, if you look at the other markets like the US or the European market, that shift was already happening. And locally here, we're always sort of 3-4 years behind.
Right.
So if you want to look at any trends, if you observe the other markets, you're going to catch on some of these trends very quickly.
Dubai is at the front of everything, but sometimes
it takes a bit of time.
Yeah,
it takes a bit of time.
Exactly, mate. I mean, we'll definitely. I'm going to get that. Is that content still online? The stuff that you did initially from Audi. I'm going to get that. I'm going to put that in the show notes, mate. Because I think that's something that's super important, so people can see exactly where you've come from. Now, mate, if we talk about that time lapse in the last 3 or 4 years, you guys just recently released a Mother's Day special yesterday for Emirates Airline. The biggest airline in the world. It must have been an absolute incredible ride in the last 3 or 4 years, mate.
100%, and everything in between. You can imagine that, at the moment we're dealing with Emirates for the past year.
Right.
So this is not our first production for them. We've been working with them for a while now. So getting to a point, and the thing that I personally hold super proud with our approach with Emirates is Emirates as a brand was, it is one of the largest recognizable, brand in the country. And if you think about their movement into the social space, it was very calculated. They had to be very sort of cautious and very, of course, calculated on that space. So for them to trust us with that kind of content, it's a great pleasure for us. And of course, it's something that kind of just solidifies the way that we're going. It's into the right direction. Yeah. And I tell Tom sometimes, sometimes it's good to take a break and pinch ourselves. We're working with these massive brands. Yeah. And it's we believe that we're adding value, of course, to them as a brand, and just seeing that sort of time lapse, like I said, and shift in how we're operating is a massive. I don't know. I feel good about it.
Well, mate, you should feel absolutely amazing about it, mate. To operate with those those brands is something incredible.
So the Mother's Day video was the first video that we shot into our new space. Yeah, it was shot in our studio space, and so we produced everything in house. Wow. From ideation to execution. You guys can check it out on Emirates YouTube. I'm going to put the links to that in the show notes. This is why, folks, you should go over to our show notes and have a look. All the cool stuff I'll put in there, and also how to connect with Dia, which we'll speak about later. But mate, it must be quite surreal to see yourselves on a platform like Emirates social media. And you're like, I just shot that the other week in my studio with my team. They're all real badasses. It must be you should be so proud. It is. And honestly, a lot of the times, because we're so stuck into it, we forget to appreciate, the milestones that we're achieving. Every single day right now, we walk into our new office, and you've been there as well.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that feeling that I personally get, I'm like I need to kind of look at it twice. I'm like, wow, okay, we're here.
We created something,
and it's amazing. Yeah,
it's super cool, mate. Content is taking us over. Like you've said, we probably don't watch as much movies anymore. We're on Instagram the whole time. Yeah. We've got Instagram Live, we've got Instagram TV, we've got Facebook Live, we've got all of these platforms. If you take off your sort of work head, I know it's your passion, so it's not work really, but if you step back, what's your thoughts on what's happened in the last few years, how brands talk to people, and also how people's time, 4 years ago, I was not spending an hour a day on Instagram. And I'm spending an hour a day on Instagram. I put my hand up. I've got the stats. I'm spending an hour a day. It's bringing me good business. I'm spending an hour a day on Instagram. So what's your thoughts about the way this thing is just it's just gone bang?
Yeah. To be honest, the first thing that social media platforms has lifted the gatekeepers.
Right.
You look back, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you had to go through a television station. Yeah. You had to go through a radio station. Yeah. Now you can get your message out there straight to the viewers. And the thing is, we find our tribes. You know what I mean? If you are authentic about your story, and if you tell your story in an authentic way and you're being honest, the tribe will come around you.
Right.
And that's super important. I feel like a lot of people have a negative stigma around social platforms, and I get it. It could be super addictive, and a lot of people can spend a lot of time on it, and in the wrong way, maybe deliver a message that's not true to themselves. Right. And that's wrong. Yeah. But if you're being honest about your passions, if you're being honest about yourself and creating a personal brand, will always be a positive thing for you to do. Yeah. Whether it's for your business or for you to go further in your career as well. Yeah. I think it's a great thing, and I think it created more opportunities for more talented people. Yeah. Instead of having to go through the system or the gatekeepers.
Yeah. So it's an interesting way to look at it, because literally all you now need is, I mean, we're sat here, and folks that are watching on YouTube, this is recorded on 2 iPhones.
Yeah.
Like the video version is recorded on 2 iPhones. And, you know, previously, and obviously we wanted higher quality. You'll tell me later that I could be doing it better, but we'd have a whole load of really expensive cameras.
Come to the studio.
See, sales pitch all the time from these guys. I love it. But I mean, the gatekeeper's gone, the barrier's down.
Yeah.
You or I can literally start to create. And mate, back in the day when maybe the iPhone 4, the quality wasn't great, we saw some really bad stuff put out there, not only by individuals, but by brands as well, huh?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But you know what? You still see a video shot on the iPhone, and it's still got like 20 million views or 10 million views.
Right.
And that's a sentiment it's about the content more than, of course, like if it's shot nicely and it's cinematic and everything, you know, looks amazing, there's a place for that. But it is as important. I don't want people to think that if you don't have the right camera, you can't create content. Because if you are creating, you know, value content, people are going to consume it.
Right.
And that's something that's super important to keep in mind. Is if you are a content creator and you have a authentic story to say, authentic message to tell, then don't let that technical barrier be something that is going to stop you.
Right.
And I think, there's definitely a...
You've led me into this very, very nicely, mate. It's always like we've scripted it. Guys, we didn't script any of this. This is a very casual conversation, as you might have picked up. But, mate, the fitness industry, health, nutrition, bikini models, workouts by the pool at Burj Khalifa has...
I've seen those.
The way that social media and this content creation that you're talking about has changed, has allowed an explosion. People, fitness influencers as they're called, have millions of followers. They're not in very good shape. They really don't know what they're talking about, but people are believing it. Give us your take on what's happening, because the fitness industry, I think, is a beast on its own, isn't it?
For sure. And it's such a weak spot for people. You know what I mean? That like if you're trying to promote something as a healthy product, and now let's talk about fitness influencers in general. I feel like what they're trying to promote, first of all, is themselves. Yeah. Second of all, is products that they work with, right? Or let's say destinations.
Or getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got the people who have the ability to get paid, but a lot of them might just do barter deals and promote a product that they don't know much about either. Yeah. So that's the danger, is because I feel, as a consumer, especially the younger generations, they could be influenced by somebody that they think a certain product they're promoting is healthy, but on the contrary, it's actually maybe not that healthy for you. So, I mean, that's more, let's say, on the health side. But I feel like look, there's a lot of people who are fitness influencers and fitness, let's say, content creators that are adding a lot of value. There's you, what you do, and there's people that I kind of look up to when consuming the content. But there's these guys who just kind of like pose in front of Burj Al Arab or take some pictures of 6-packs and whatever, and there's no value. Like, what is the value of this?
But people are eating it up, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where's it? Why?
It's I guess it's an inspiration for a lot of the people want to look like somebody or want to achieve a certain physical state. So that's that's an easier way to kind of say, I'd like to see myself in that person's physique, for example. That's one way to think about it. Yeah. But when you've got that tribe around you and you've got that influence around that tribe, and then I feel like the way it could go wrong is by how you're influencing your tribe. And if you continue going down the road of not like giving proper value and just kind of like throwing in products that you don't know anything about, that's when things go sour.
But that's what's interesting as well, because from a brand perspective, from what we see, the brands want to work with people, the fitness influencers that have the most followers, but the ones that have the most followers are often the most disingenuous ones. They're the ones that all today you're promoting, I don't know, let's not give these brands too much time, but today you're promoting this kind of water and tomorrow you're promoting this kind of soft drink.
Isn't that Big Rossi? Or?
Rossi promotes this brand of water that really, I'm not sure if he believes it, but anyway, we shouldn't really speak about him because he's not here, and he only went and got a water brand because I'm sponsored by Volvic.
Sure.
And he was a little bit jealous, and but mate, Big Rossi's actually really interesting, and we didn't speak about this much on his podcast, and I'm sure he's doesn't have a problem with speaking about it, but he used to get paid from brands for creating content around food. So one of his big ones was, I think it was Sumo Sushi, and they had this thing, you can eat a kilo of sushi.
Wow.
So, you know, he'd get paid some decent money, and I can't say how much, but everyone knows how much these things are worth, to shoot his video, create this content of about a minute video that he'd then put on his social channels, and he would be in there in Sumo Sushi eating a kilo of sushi.
Yeah.
He makes a whole lifestyle change, and now suddenly those gigs are not coming in anymore, so he has to go to a water brand. But mate, it is, if we go back a little bit to creating content, that's how things are happening. Like someone like Rossi, who has a little bit of influence, he's on Virgin, he's got 20,000 followers. They're able to pick up these ad hoc jobs and do it. What's, as someone who, and this is where I want to get to with this, as someone yourself who's got a legitimate business around creating this content, how do you guys mix it with people that are just iPhone, a little bit of, you know, whatever apps on the phone, and suddenly they're putting something on Instagram?
On Instagram. So that's a really important thing, and I've seen a shift between also, like, if we look at marketing directors and marketing managers across these companies, they're starting to understand that there's the big influencers with the big numbers,
right?
And they're starting to understand that the conversion from these big numbers are not where they should be.
Right.
So that's a really important part. Is you could put up a picture and you get 50,000 likes, but in reality, as a brand, what's the added value that you're getting? If it is brand recognition, then cool, you've got your job done. But if it is a conversion equation, then how many of these followers are going to your platform, endorsing your brand, buying your product, and that only happens if you're real about what you're saying.
Right.
So you know, with you, for example, doing the ultras and then promoting a certain shoe, for example, that you've got the experience. Like you've tried these and it's tested and proven.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody that just, you know, playing around with their phone and ad hoc brands are coming in every week, there is no credibility.
Right.
And that credibility starts getting lost. Now, and it's not just about these big numbers, because smaller, and we call them micro-influencers, there is a place for them as well. Because you could only have 3,000-4,000 people, but for a brand, if you're able to convert 200 people, that's enough.
You've done a really good job. You've actually got interaction with your 3,000 or 4,000.
100%. So like if they're genuinely active 3,000-4,000 people, that's all you need for like a local brand, for example, to you know, lift their product into a better place. So the idea of reaching out to somebody with 500,000 and million and paying them all these big bucks is changing as well.
Right.
Because the brands are starting to recognize that, listen, we're getting more ROI when we're going to the smaller sort of influencers.
Wow.
So even if you don't have that many followers, I would recommend, if you're a content creator, stay true to yourself, straight to your voice, and like, what are you trying to promote? What's your story? And don't get distracted with those smaller deals that come along and say, hey, here's a free product, can you post about it, if it doesn't align with your message.
It's super true, and I think I'm okay to say this. Like when I first started working with Volvic 2.5 years ago, they actually said to me in the meeting, that obviously smashed me right in the face with it. They're like, listen, you don't have the most number of Instagram followers. I think I had about 5,000 followers. They said, but we can see that your community is engaged, and we can also see that, you know, you're genuine, and people will levitate towards that. They said, we've got other influencers that have got like, and when they said influencers, I said, guys, I'm not an influencer at all, you know. And they said, we've got people with 25, 30,000 followers, but we want to work with you because of what you just said, that sort of more micro thing. So, mate, does it, when you look at some content of these bigger influencers, you must go, I mean, I don't recognize it, but unless it's really bad, but you must just go, oh my God, that is just terrible.
There's a lot of cringe-worthy content out there. So I'm just like, okay.
What makes it good and what makes it bad, mate? I mean, this is your profession. What makes something good and something bad?
I do see a lot of, I mean, to be honest, generally the content is getting better and better, because the overall sort of communal, you know, creating content is becoming a bit better. So, but there are a few moments where you just see that the person isn't really engaged with the product that they're trying to promote, or even the way that they're sort of putting the product across is not honest, and that comes across, and you're kind of like, what? Like, if you're not believing your own self, you're kind of like, that sort of, you know, storyline that you're trying to sell me is you don't believe it. So I'm also kind of like seeing through that as well. But it's from a technical perspective, I feel like, you know, the very, and in a way, you remember these old commercials where it's like, buy this, you know, like, buy this ketchup, it's really good for you, whatever. It kind of feels a little bit like that when like they're holding the product up, you know, center frame, whatever. And it's, personally, I prefer the more sort of subtle way of introducing it.
But mate, let me just stop you there. What's the difference between 15 years ago me being on a TV channel going, let's use it, buy this ketchup. It's really like, advertising used to be so cheesy, but it's you know, you've got a guy, and sometimes that person wouldn't even be famous because it's not possible to get famous like it is now on Instagram really quick. But it's like, what's the difference between 15 years ago going, this is lovely ketchup, and eating it with fries, as opposed to today just doing that on your Instagram?
The difference is...
Not that I think people should be doing that.
No, for sure. But like in a nutshell, the difference is, even if you did that back then, you still had 10 million people watching. Right. Because there was only television. Right now, if somebody tries that, it'll be swipe, you're out. Right. You know what I mean? Like, if you start noticing, like, you're getting that cringe feeling, you'll be like, whoop, you're out. You know what I mean? Like, so you can't give that sort of emotion to anybody, especially with the content. So you've got to be, that quality control has to be in everything that you create. Right. So if you want to make this as a career, if you want to be a content creator, if you want to be somebody with a voice in the community, you need to be your biggest critic. Right. And if you're not, you're not going to live long in that sort of space.
Mate, have you seen lots of people sort of come into that space, come into the industry, and just fail massively? Like, you know, I mean, you've got the big stars that every so often they put something, you know, it's normally around belief systems and stuff, and they say kind of the wrong thing that they shouldn't say in the public eye. But is anyone really making big mistakes in your eyes, or is anyone really doing good things?
See, the problem is with social media at the moment. I've seen this with a few sort of the big stars, is everything is documented. Right. So if you have an opinion today on something, and then you change your opinion later on in the future, people can track back and say, hey, 2 years ago, that wasn't your thought. You're lying to us. You know what I mean? And the fact that everything is getting documented, people are held accountable for their thoughts and their messaging, especially if you're in an influential position. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of people who said stuff about whether it's, I don't know, the LGBT community or something, and they kind of completely shifted their mindset, and people kind of held them accountable. They were like, hey, that's not your thoughts like 2 years ago.
It's happened quite a bit recently. I think there's been 2 or 3 people that embraced a vegan, plant-based diet way of eating, and after a couple of years realized that actually that wasn't the right thing for them, and they've just been getting absolutely rinsed on a number of levels.
So I think that's one thing to consider. If you do want to adopt something and you're not too sure about it, think twice, because it's going to get documented, and people are going to hold you accountable. And
do you think many people go back on their Instagram feed? I've never ever deleted a post, but do people go back like 12 months and go, I better get rid of that?
I get some random likes sometimes, which, like, you know, a few weeks ago or a few months, I'm like, wow, where have you gone?
Are you stalking me?
Where have you gone back there?
It's very interesting, mate. Talking a little bit about the technical side. So people think, let's take an example of someone, they've got a pretty genuine message. We've got a lot of people who are in the fitness industry, you know, are trying to get maybe it's their personal training business up and running. What would be your sort of 2 or 3 go-to steps? Like, how should they be making videos? Should they be investing in stuff? Is a smartphone enough? What's your sort of, let's say, idiot's guide to creating some nice content?
So the first tip I would say is, the best camera is the camera you have.
Right.
That's the tip number 1.
I'm going to write that one down for the show notes.
So otherwise, you know, we're always keeping excuses for ourselves. We're the reason why we're not creating, because we don't have the latest and the greatest camera. But actually, like we're doing right now, we're shooting this on iPhones, and it's fine. You know what I mean? It's about the content.
Yeah, it's actually the microphones.
You need to change those, bro.
The microphones have been weird today. So, okay, the best camera is the one that you have.
Second thing is consistency.
Right.
You know, we talked about this as well before the show, is if you know that your show is going to get interrupted, or if you know that your series or episodes are going to get interrupted, make a plan around it so that your audience doesn't get disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that I see. You know, you get people that do come into the fitness industry or start, and I think this is not just personal trainers, it's people that start on a fitness journey as well. They're like, I'm going to post about this every single day. I'm going to do a vlog every single day, or it's going to be on my story every single day. Day 3, they just crash. And I mean, people say to me sometimes, they're like, geez, like, it must be hard work. Like, it's hard work to keep my story going and to keep it interesting and to keep my feed going the whole time as well. And it takes a lot of effort as well.
And there is a part of it is when you publicly announce, like, let's say you want to do something daily, and when you publicly announce that, it is good that, because you have that sort of responsibility now, because you kind of feel like you're responsible for your community to do that. But if you're not, and it's good to stretch yourself and put sort of challenges that you feel that are gonna challenge you, but you've got to be up for the challenge, and you've got to be committed and have got that sort of mindset to say, cool, like I'm gonna put aside this amount of time to continue creating this content. So consistency is super important. If you want to grow a community around you, definitely be consistent. And I guess finding your voice, and that takes a while. You know, finding your voice and be authentic to yourself, it's not something that you stumble upon. You need to, you know, experiment. You need to test out what is your community reacting to the most, and is that thing something that is authentic to yourself? And you've got to make the link. And sometimes they're reacting to, like, I don't know, memes or something, but that's not who you really want to promote yourself as. So you need to be careful and create that balance between who you really are and what is the community reacting to, and then doubling down on the stuff that is, you know, getting good feedback from the community, but also representing you in the way that you want to be represented.
Yeah, I think it's super true, mate. There's a lot of time people see something working well on someone else's Instagram, whether that, you know, and it is this whole, you know, I'm going to give you this high intensity workout by the pool in front of the Burj Khalifa, and now suddenly everyone's doing it because it's super easy to shoot, super easy to edit, put some, you know, and then suddenly it's gone. And someone's, you know, some people have got thousands and thousands of likes for it and comments and stuff, and then you do it, and it's like, but it'd be exactly the same as us being here in essentially a CrossFit-based gym, and suddenly our, you know, spinning has taken off. Okay, we'll just clear out the rig downstairs and the barbells downstairs and make spinning. Mate, before we wrap up, we've got about 5 minutes to go. I want to get some of your thoughts on where this is all going. We've come so far so fast.
True.
Where, I mean, do you have, you guys must have some insights into sort of in the industry what's going to be happening, but what's your thoughts, mate? I want 12 months, then I want 3 years, then I want 10 years.
It's like a free consultation, right?
Yeah, mate, this is, I want to know what's going to happen, because I'm going to get you back on, and I want to know, and we're going to talk, and we're going to play bits of this show, and we're going to go, right, dear, you are right. You really do have a crystal ball.
To be funny, I mean, off the show, I told you I was in a meeting, and I was going to be running a little bit late, and part of that meeting was looking at new technology.
Wow.
Around augmented reality and around how that's going to be incorporated in our daily life. And I've seen some stuff which is going to be crazy. And
so where's it going? 12 months? Where are we going?
That stuff is getting released in the next 12 months, I would say. But again, it's so okay. So let's take the new generation, right? We're the older dudes now, so let's take
the older dude, mate.
Let's take the new generation. And I feel like, you know, we grew up, let's say, on MTV, and we were getting inspired by all of these guys. And the young generation is getting inspired by vloggers and getting inspired by, you know, by influencers. And YouTube is their MTV. You know what I mean? And maybe not so much Facebook, but like the content that's being, that format of content is there every single day. And I see it every day. A kid is crying, the mother's putting YouTube on for them, and and I've seen it like it's the young kid is skipping like ads. And it can't even talk yet. It can't talk yet. It's skipping ads. And I'm like, what is going on here?
This is crazy,
so like so that integration with technology in these platforms is starting up at a super young age. So, you know, staying, again, I would say, like, understanding the platforms that you want to advertise on as a brand or as an individual, if you're pushing up your personal brand, is super important, and double down on these platforms. Stay consistent on them, and you will start to grow your tribe around you. From a technology perspective, we see that there is a lot of, you know, they talk about the formula that's going to get you the views, or like million views or whatever, and how much artificial intelligence will start sort of facilitating creating storylines for brands or even for like content creators. And that's something that actually is starting to happen right now. Is there's few formulas that you can kind of say, cool, like if you create your video this way, and if you talk about these topics, you're going to get X amount of views because the industry, or because at that point of time, people are actually interested in this topic. So there are ways, and we do that already for the brands, as we kind of tell them what is the hot topics that everyone's talking about, integrate that within your content strategy, and you kind of guarantee a certain amount of...
How fast is that moving though?
I mean, that's every week or every day. It's something new. I mean, if something happens and it shifts the attention of people, then, but we need to keep track on like what is the most searched hashtags, what is the most searched, you know, kind of like terms, and we use that into creating the content. So that's one thing to adapt into your content creation process, I would say. If you want to stay on top of the game, if you want to stay relevant to what's happening. Now, the problem is a lot of people adapt to that too much, where they're kind of creating content and stuff that it just doesn't make sense to their own personal brand. For example, if, I don't know, Justin Timberlake gets jailed, and next show you're talking about him getting jailed, but that's gonna maybe get you more views, but it has nothing to do with your brand. So but a lot of people do that. A lot of people they incorporate that. So understanding what are the trends online. I mean, there's different technologies from augmented reality. The live stream technologies is something that's going to take place and it's going to increase as well.
Right.
At the moment, LinkedIn is doing live stream, Facebook's doing live stream, YouTube's doing live stream. So being able to transfer a show in real time to so many people around the world is something on these platforms is something that's going to go big as well.
That's what the app that we're actually currently recording on Switcher. Anyone that likes to do this stuff, create content, this is really simple. We could be going live to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live, which I was actually quite surprised about.
Recently,
when it came out. But mate, when we talk about the platforms, and two things sort of to wrap it up here. The platforms, we've obviously seen a massive rise. We're talking about their Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live. Instagram in our region is I think it's one of the biggest, and everything's getting through.
Yeah.
Are we going to see massive changes? Do we think, like a lot of people are saying, like LinkedIn is sort of coming and taking over? People are like, there's a lot of, what if there was no Instagram tomorrow? What would you do? What's your thoughts on the platforms?
So, and that's so relevant. I think the platforms are very relevant to the age group that we're talking about.
Yeah.
If Instagram or if LinkedIn shuts down tomorrow, it's going to be irrelevant for the 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 18-year-olds.
Because they're on Snapchat.
Yeah. So like it depends on that age bracket that you're talking to.
Right.
And for us, like, we're seeing that increase in ROI when we're releasing content on LinkedIn, because we know that people who are watching that content is actually more probably susceptible to convert or to like engage with your brand. So it all depends. I think there's going to be a new platform where there's called XYZ in like 2-3 years.
Right.
Just being able to like stay tuned to what's new and adapt to it, and not be too like, you remember when it's, for example, Twitter, and then Twitter was at a certain high, and then it just kind of became good for news and good for like updates on that sort of that sort of content. But understanding that all these platforms are going to go through different changes.
Right.
And if you only get stuck on one platform and not cross-migrate your following, you're going to be in trouble as well.
So you need to be on a few different
multiple
platforms. I need to up my game a little bit. I've got some free advice from this show. Let's see if I can get one last piece before we close it out. Device-wise, mate, things are moving fast. But if you think about it, one of the... to go back to what we're recording on, one of the iPhones that we've got here is, I think, is an iPhone 7. One's an iPhone 8, and I'm carrying in my pocket an iPhone 10. Where do these things go to? Can they get better? Like cameras, editing, you can shoot on we were talking before the show on the Osmo Mobile. That software, you shoot with your phone within a minute, it takes the highlights of it and puts it into a reel for you.
Well, what if you could shoot from your eye?
Where does it go to?
But what if it's a POV shot that's being shot like from what you can see?
Wow.
And that's part of what I saw today.
Wow.
So like, I mean, phones is one thing, but like the new technology is like, why do you need to hold a phone if you see something that you just want to snap straight away?
Yeah.
How can you do that?
Really? Wow.
So like that's where it's going, and now we're already seeing the foldable screens. We've seen the new Galaxy phone where it's like a screen that folds.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember these back in the day at school days. We had the ruler that kind of wraps around your wrist.
Yeah.
And now there's screens that can wrap around your wrist, and that could be your phone. So it can go into a million directions, and I think the exponential growth in technology that we had in the past 10 years. You remember the first phones, the Nokia ones, that like a suitcase that we used to carry around. And the development we had only the past 10 years. I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
Where it's going to go.
So to predict, I don't think I'm in the right position to kind of predict where technology is going, but I can tell you that in a way that, the immersive augmented reality, the immersive technology that we're going to get through even walking down the streets and being able to, interact with physical restaurants or hotels, or make a booking through like just speaking to your to your phone or something like this. It's coming very, very soon.
I think it's very exciting, mate. I think for some of the negatives that we've highlighted, people creating bad content and people promoting bad things, I think there is a lot of positives in it. I just think, especially in the health and fitness industry, I think people, and this is my biggest fear, but I think a lot of that people are being led down the garden path about and being sold products that aren't actually good for them,
Yeah.
and then they have a really bad experience, so they'll invest some money in a product because you're a massive influencer and you've told me that I should do it, and your pictures make you look ripped, but you can get an app for that now anyway.
Oh, you can? Really?
Yeah, you can get an app, and it just I don't have it. Stop looking at me strange. But you know, I think obviously when there's positive, there's negatives, but I think you know, I think this is going to be, it's moving super fast.
Definitely. And to stay true to yourself, you know, there's a lot of noise in the market at the moment as well, because the gatekeepers are not there anymore.
Yeah.
So if you want to stand out from the crowd, you need to be authentic.
Yeah.
That's
Mate,
the key
final
message.
question, and I'm going to bring this all back to health and fitness, obviously, because that is our podcast.
Sure.
What do you think, for you personally, how much has social media and content that you see on social media played motivation in your own fitness journey?
Heavily, man. I mean, look, I'm here. I've done a few workouts in InnerFight. They were amazing.
Not enough.
I need to come back for sure. But I mean, with all the content that I consume, you know, yourself included, and various other people, there's what I love to see is the human potential being pushed.
Right.
And that's something personally that inspires me a lot.
Yeah.
And that's something you do with your challenges. And it's an ever-growing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, right now there's a Nike, I think, documentary about breaking the 2 hours, right? Like, so things like this just kind of like make me, wow, like how far can we go as humans? And that's something that always keeps me inspired. And to bring it back to the fitness is just really seeing the people who are authentic about their journey, their fitness journey, people who transform their bodies. And it's not about, you know, changing their bodies in like, you know, 6 months or whatever, but it's changing the mindset and changing the approach about life.
Yeah.
And the reasons why, and I feel maybe a lot of people don't talk about that. Maybe they kind of show you the before and after picture, but like mentally, what did you have to go through?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was listening to a book, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, David Goggins.
Yeah, David Goggins. And just the journey that he went through, you know,
amazing.
through so many different stages of his life is like, it resonates with me as well. It's like when I feel shitty or when I go like, you know, no, I don't think I should work out. I'm like, but why not?
Yeah.
Let me just get up. You know, let me get up and do something.
Yeah.
So, and
I think that's a super nice way to wrap it up, man. I think there's so much benefit from it, and we've got that inspiration, that motivation a little bit closer to hand than we've ever had. You're feeling down, you feel like you're not going to do a workout, you open your phone and you've got some idiot like me going, it's 5 a.m. go and get it and go and crush it. So I think it's awesome. Dia, mate, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. Loads of value for people there, mate. And I don't know. I'm going to get you back. I've made lots of notes here. We're going to get you back in a year, and we're going to see if you're the real deal or not.
Yeah,
this
we'll
was
see.
actually a test. But, mate, thank you very much. Congratulations what you and Tom have done over at Create. I'll link everything up there in the show notes, guys. The videos to Audi, what Dia first created there, and then some of the stuff that he released just this week for Emirates. Absolutely fantastic, mate. Congratulations, and all the very best.
Thank you.
Awesome.